Hi, I'm Caden, and this is Paw Paw. What is your real name?
Well, Caden, I've been Paw Paw to you all my life, but my real name is Vernon Edgar Wilson Jr. I was named the same name as my father a long time ago.
Where did you grow up? What was it like? Was it urban, rural, or suburban?
I grew up right after the Second World War, and that's been a long time ago, Caden. And I grew up in several different areas because my father and mother moved from place to place when I was a boy. So I guess that I lived in rural and urban and suburban areas, all three.
What kinds of chores did you have?
What kind of chores did I have? Well, I had to help my mother mow the lawn and rake up leaves, and sometimes I would take the garbage out, and I would sometimes have to clean up my room.
How about transportation? How many cars did you have?
How about my transportation, how we got around? We only had one car. I remember we had a 1948 Dodge, and it was a black car and had 4 doors, and my brother and I would have to ride in the back seat.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have one brother and one sister, just like you. You have one brother and one sister. But my brother was about my age, almost, a little bit younger, and my sister was born after I was a big boy. She's 9 years younger than I am.
Do you have any stories to share about them?
Stories to tell about my brother and sister? Well, I remember that my brother and I were always busy trying to make money to buy ourselves a bicycle or to go to camp. We had to make our own money. And when I was 9 years old, I would knock on the doors of the neighborhood, and I would say, I have a scripture text calendar. Would you like to buy a scripture text calendar? And when I was 9 years old, I bought myself a bicycle by going door to door and selling calendars. Then my brother and I would pick up newspapers and sell them for a few cents a pound and make a little extra money. And one time we found 1,000 funny books. They were called comic books, and they were like Superman and Batman and Robin. And we had all these funny books in our garage. And I've lived my whole life thinking, if I had those funny books now, they'd be worth $1,000 a piece because they're collector's items. And that's a story from my brother and me. And my little sister was so sweet, 9 years younger, and I remember being mean to her and teasing her and tricking her. I know somebody else that does that to his brother and sister. Do you? Yes.
Do you have any stories about television?
About television. When I was a boy, your age, we didn't have a television. But next fall, you're going to be 9 years old. And when I became 9 years old, we got a television. But it was black and white. And it wasn't much fun. But I remember Batman and Robin, and the #1 show on television in those days was The Lone Ranger. And it was really decent. We liked The Lone Ranger a whole lot. And then Archie was on, and a lot of people that were comic characters, Dick Tracy, and a lot of other comic characters were on television when I was a boy, along with cartoons.
How did you heat your house?
We heated our house the same way you heat yours, with natural gas. Texas has always had a lot of natural gas. And we had space heaters. You'd put a heater out in the middle of the floor and strike a match, and then a big flame would come up and heat you.
Did Did you have running water?
We had running water. We had everything you have, almost, but not as nice, but still really good.
Did you? How did you communicate with other people?
We used a telephone back in those days, and the telephone had a cord on it, and it sat in the middle of the house, and only one telephone. And if it rang, you had to go answer it, and you had long distance, and you had to ask the operator to put you up long distance so you could talk to somebody in the next town. Also, we had what is known as party lines, and if you talked on the telephone, your neighbors might listen in and hear what you were saying. And you'd always be saying, "Get off the line, please. This is a private conversation."
What was your favorite adventure?
My favorite adventure, when I was a little boy, my favorite adventure would be to get in the car with my father and we'd go out to a creek near Austin, Texas called Onion Creek. And it had the beautiful clear water, and it would just be flowing along, and it had a deep spot, and we'd get in that deep spot of the creek and swim. And we had a big tree, and we'd put a rope on the tree, and we'd swing out in the middle of the water and then drop right into the middle of the creek. And it was so nice. The water was so cool in the middle of the summer in Austin, Texas. I remember that.
Was there anything to make a diving board? Could you have a diving?
Is there any other story that I would like to share with you about when I grew up? Well, I remember one time that I was 4 years old, and it was in LaGrange, Georgia, and it was raining so hard. So my dad picked me up because I was so little. He picked me up to carry me through the rainstorm, and we came to a bridge made out of wood, and my dad slipped on the bridge and threw me over the bridge, and I landed on my stomach in the bottom of the creek, and Daddy had to run down and pick me up out of the bottom of the creek, and it knocked the breath out of me. And I remember that when I was just a little bitty boy.
Thank you for helping with my homework interview.
You enjoyed this interview? Did you like Paw Paw's stories? All right. Well, I love you, Caden, and you are such a wonderful young man and a good grandson. Thank you for asking me these questions.
Thank you.